What's up, everybody? It's KBR Sports, the best sports talk show, your 24-hour day. I'm your host, Brendan Abbin. Come bringing you KBR Sports. Hope everybody had a great weekend. A lot of events happened over the course of this weekend. We had a lot of college football, had a lot of professional football, had the premier boxing fight between Triple G and Canelo Alvarez. So a lot of big events happening throughout the weekend, and also extending into today with all the news that's come out today and everything like that. So it's been quite the eventful weekend and extending into weekday. But before I get started with everything, y'all, make sure you all follow and subscribe to the KBR Sports Podcast by going on Rabble TV, Spreaker, YouTube, iTunes, and SoundCloud. Also, don't forget, you all can follow KBR Sports on Twitter at KBR_sports for the live links and show topics that tweeted prior to every single show. And you can also call in at 571-991-0566 in order to give your thoughts and opinions on any KBR Sports show topic. All right, so just to jump into things, I'm going to give my our comic book trivia real quick, since it hasn't been done in a while. So here is the comic book question for everybody who's listening. All right, so me and Deadpool have something in common. For those who know me, you probably will get the answer to this. But for those who don't know me, there's a specific food place I cannot stand eating at. And I will explain why I cannot stand eating there later on in the show. But me and Deadpool have something in common because, well, me is more of a choice. Deadpool, not exactly. And for those of you who don't know, Deadpool is a sort of a hero, anti-hero, whatever you want to call him, in the Marvel Universe. Has a strong resembling to Spider-Man. His movie came out about a year or two ago. So, very funny guy. But Deadpool essentially has been banned from this public establishment. Now, I won't tell you which one it is, but let's just say that it was featured. It was one of the favorite food places of a TV show in Cat Dog, the old Nickelodeon TV show. And that's about the only hint I could give you all. So, what fast food place or food place in general was Deadpool banned from? Tweet your answers to KBR_sports or comment them on the KBR Sports Podcast, or call in at 571-991-0566 with your answer. All right, so we have I already listed off a bit of the topics that are a bit of things that happened this weekend, but as opposed to our topics for today's show, we're going to be talking about Kyrie Irving, how he made news today with a big interview, really his first interview since announcing his trade, and really first time him speaking up since he was traded, other than the press conference. Also, I'm going to touch on the Seattle Seahawks, and if this Seattle Seahawks roster will be able to make it back to another Super Bowl. Find out what my thoughts are later on in the show. Also, I'll touch on Drew Brees, and if Drew Brees himself will be able to play in another Super Bowl. It's been a while since he made it to his last one, and will the 39-year-old quarterback be able to make it to another one before he retires? Interesting thoughts. And then I'll also give my thoughts on the Canelo and Triple G fight and everything that transpired over the weekend in terms of that fight and whatnot. But, y'all, to get things kicked off. So before I dive into this topic, let me just say this first. Has anybody ever had, I'm pretty sure everybody has gone through, most people have gone through all levels of schooling, at least up until the high school level. A majority of people have. So if you've gone through majority of the levels of school, then you've most likely been involved in what many would say in gossip circles. You've been involved in a rumor. There's been a rumor spread about you. There's been things said about you that you knew weren't all entirely true, but you didn't exactly have control of. You initially put something out and intended for it to land one way, or you said something you intended for it to land one way, but then you see as it manifests and as it boils over, it gets completely spun into something different. And then has it happened when you were sick and you went out from school and you come back to school and there's a rumor coming around about you that, oh man, you had this terminal illness or something like that. You're like, guys, I just had the flu, or that you did something that got you suspended, so you were out of school. So you come back and you're like, what? Like, how did this happen? Or you have a rumor spreading around where, you were dating somebody, or something spread about you and somebody else's crush. All these kind of things. You have a crush on somebody. All this stuff, and things just get out control, that you don't have control of them anymore. Well, if that's happened to you, you share something in common with Kyrie Irving. Way to go. Think that deserves a round of applause? Because I mean, when you sit there and think about it. Okay, yeah, clap. Okay, yeah, that's enough. All right, but yeah. So if you shared that kind of experience, then you share something with Kyrie Irving, and essentially, I'm alluding to the Kyrie Irving's trade request when he initially requested his trade from the Cleveland Cavaliers, and over time, it seemed as though as it got funneled over between media outlets, the narrative of the trade request changed. It became, Kyrie's trying to be Kyrie wants to get away from playing with LeBron. He can't stand playing with LeBron anymore. He's tired of being the second fiddle, all this stuff. Well, Kyrie Irving addressed a lot of these rumors today. A lot of the narratives and stuff going on today. He appeared on ESPN's First Take, in which he was being interviewed by Stephen A. Smith, Molly Qerim, and Max Kellerman, and he was addressing their questions, and he addressed a lot of what has been said throughout the trade talks. And mind you all, a lot through what has gone on throughout this whole scenario with him, and in terms of what's relation to LeBron, Kyrie hasn't said anything about it, honestly. Even at his press conference when he initially got introduced as a Celtic, he really had nothing to say on the matter. So when you sit back and look at these things, this is the first time he's essentially, like I said earlier, it's the first time he's really coming out and speaking on these kind of matters. But what I have to say about it, okay, so how I'm gonna format this segment, I'm gonna read you all different quotes of Kyrie's interview for what he said, and then I'm gonna give you my thoughts and opinion. I'm gonna dissect every quote, because from what I've seen today, a lot of people are just jumping to conclusions about what they thought about what Kyrie was saying. And I'm not saying I'm gonna do the same thing, but I don't feel like people really broke down what he said on its face value. I think people more so wanted to see if what he said agreed with what their premise already was. So if they felt as though Kyrie didn't want to play with LeBron already, whatever he said, they were just looking to see if he's going to flat out say, I didn't want to play with LeBron. So anything he said, they were already coming at it with that preconceived notion. So they weren't really looking at it for its face value. Now, in the interview, Kyrie was more so, he didn't really tackle questions head on, but more so he kind of went around them. He kind of answered around them. And he didn't really answer them directly, but he did answer them with a lot of slight language under the helmet or under the belt sort of thing. Okay, so let me read. First of all, let me start off with the thing that was the most notable piece of news that came out. So I'm going to read you. This is Stephen A. asking him the question. And I'm going to read you Kyrie's answer. This is Stephen A. Did you speak to LeBron James before you and your representatives met with ownership and let them know you wanted out? Kyrie, no. Stephen A. Why not? Kyrie, why would I have to? Stephen A. If you don't speak to someone, they might take it personally. Kyrie, yeah. Stephen A. Do you care about that at all? Kyrie, no. So, from what I gather from this is that obviously Kyrie's putting it out there that he did it. He's being truthful. I will say, I feel like Kyrie's being really truthful throughout this interview. He's putting it out there that he did not talk to LeBron prior to putting in his trade request, and that he didn't inform LeBron on his intentions or anything of that sort of what he intended to do. Now, one thing I will say is with Kyrie, he also says in that comment, he says why do I have to? He's right. I mean, LeBron, if you look at LeBron's career, from what LeBron has done in each and every waking turn, LeBron left Cleveland the first time, didn't tell anybody about it, made the decision to go he said that he literally made this decision the night beforehand. So this was a last minute decision for LeBron James. Now, for LeBron leaving Miami, apparently nobody knew. Apparently Dwayne Wade didn't know. LeBron didn't tell anybody about that when he decided to leave Miami, and LeBron has stayed rather hush about his intentions of what he plans to do next summer when he's going to be a free agent. So Kyrie not telling LeBron is not like it's a slight towards Kyrie or anything, because LeBron's already have a track record, a slight towards LeBron or anything, because LeBron already has a track record of doing that every place he's been to and every place he's left. So I don't know why you would take it personally. I mean, from looking at pictures and videos of him and Dwayne Wade working out over this past offseason, it doesn't seem like Dwayne Wade took it personally when LeBron left him. And then everybody can surmise that LeBron left Miami not only because he wanted to come home to Cleveland, but because he was going to play with a younger star in Kyrie Irving. There's a lot there that Dwayne Wade could have took personally, but didn't. And the fact that LeBron didn't, or supposedly didn't tell Dwayne that he was planning on leaving, Dwayne opted out of a contract in which he left a lot of money on the table. He opted out of the contract. I think he could take a pay cut, possibly having LeBron James return. Dwayne Wade essentially lost a lot of money, and all that ensued, in which Dwayne Wade ended up going to Chicago afterwards, after that initial season in Miami. So it's one of those things that I don't think LeBron should really take this kind of thing personally, because it's not like he was telling Kyrie about what he wanted to do or anything like that either. And this goes on to another quote Kyrie had, in which I'm about to read right here. When you get to that crossroads in your career and in your life, and you have to make that decision, it's not about necessarily figuring out what the other person's intent is, but what your intent is. He's right. When you have a big decision to make in your life, and granted, yes, him and LeBron were the 1-2 punch for the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's Kyrie's life. It's not behooved to him to figure out what LeBron James is planning to do. That's what he's saying. It's not on me to really try and figure out what LeBron's plans are, what LeBron wants to do. When I just need to know what I want to do for myself. That's what Kyrie's whole quote right there means. Because a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, did Kyrie try and figure out if LeBron was going to leave? Did Kyrie know what LeBron's and James' intentions were?" Obviously not. But obviously he didn't care. In Kyrie's mind, his intentions were what came to the forefront. His intentions are what mattered the most, and that's how it should be. It shouldn't be about what anybody else's intentions are or anything like that. It should be about what Kyrie feels like would make him the happiest and put him in the best position to be the best possible player he can be. And that was a lot of what the maintaining theme was throughout this interview, is that Kyrie kept saying, I want to maximize my capabilities as a player. And he said that he wanted to play point guard. That's what he wanted to do. And it's not a slight towards LeBron. Like, everybody wants to make everything into a slight. That's what the media does. They want to turn everything into a slight, into a drama pit. It doesn't need to be that. Essentially, him saying he wants to play point guard, it's not no surprise that everywhere LeBron goes, he turns into the point guard, point forward. Every place LeBron goes, his teammates either become spot-up shooters, a la Kevin Love, Chris Bosh, or they become merely ISO players or slashing players, a la Dwayne Wade, Kyrie Irving. There's no surprise to this, and there's no shame to that. It's not a slight towards LeBron James. LeBron James is a great player. When you take your team to the NBA Finals 7 consecutive years, you're great. But it's not a slight. It shouldn't be, another player shouldn't be denigrated because they don't want to be a part of that. They don't want their role to be fixated on being an ISO player, because there are some people like a Max Kellerman that have said Kyrie's a one-dimensional player, and Kyrie even took that up with Max. He had an issue with that, and Max saying he was a one-dimensional player. Kyrie has been perceived as a closer, primarily a scorer. He's not a guy that makes people better and all that, but he hasn't really been given the team or the system that would allow him to maximize on those capabilities. The reason why we're able to see Steph Curry be such a marksman from deep, be such a splash king from downtown, get all these open looks from three, is because that's part of Golden State's system. That's why Kevin Durant went there to go play in that system. Kyrie's in a system that's orchestrated and surrounded by LeBron James. When you take LeBron James out of that system, since he is the system, that's why the team loses. A la why Kyrie and the Cavaliers, even when Kyrie's there and LeBron doesn't start, despite him and Kevin Love being there, the Cavaliers still lose because LeBron is a system. When you can't take this system out and then put Kyrie and Kevin Love in there and say, okay, now make us win. Despite how many points Kyrie puts up or how many assists he gets, it still results in the team losing because it's not the system. He doesn't have a system in place to play off of. So I don't think it was really on, like, just like how Kevin Durant. Now one thing I will say, if I had someone that was working with me in a deep capacity, like if Nigel and me were doing the show and he was going to lead the show, I would like for him to tell me. I'm not saying that Kyrie shouldn't have told LeBron. I understand why he didn't tell him, because all that boils down to the kind of relationship you have with your partner, your co-host, whatever it is, your co-star, whatever. So if they had just a pure working relationship, then, I mean, you're not like your best friends. I mean, when Kevin Durant left Oklahoma City, nobody said, oh, did you tell the next long tenured guy there? Did you tell this person? Did you tell that person? Like, it all became about him and Russell Westbrook. Everybody makes it about the person and the star because everybody tries to drive wedges in between those two people. Sometimes it's really not all that. Yes, sometimes feelings are hurt because people feel like, why would you leave me? Like, we had something good here or whatever, and they take it personally because they feel like you didn't want to play with me. It's not it at all. Sometimes somebody just wants to go and do what's best for them. Doesn't what Kyrie's saying sound a lot like what Kevin Durant said when Kevin Durant left OKC to go to Golden State? Kevin Durant specifically said, "Oh, I'm not sliding the Oklahoma City Thunder," even though recent tweets would say otherwise, at least about how he feels about Billy Donovan in the roster. But he said, "I'm not sliding the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm not saying anything bad about Russell Westbrook. None of that. This is just a personal decision I want to make for the best of me and my family and my career." Why can't guys just do that? Why does it always have to be about something deeper, some intricate feeling of negative feeling, a negative notion towards another guy? That's what always makes it into. It doesn't always have to be that. Okay, so then Kyrie also goes on to say, also says in this interview, this is what he also says. "I know the type of person I am and the type of person I want to become. It never came from the fact his trade request. It never came from the fact of wanting to be absolutely selfish and wanting to be the man and putting myself first. I don't really have an ego. I have a presence and aura about me that is very reality based." Now, when he's saying that, I'm taking that as him saying, "Look, I don't need everybody telling me, hey, look, you're leaving the best player in the world and you're going to 7 consecutive NBA Finals each year. You have a guaranteed trip to the NBA Finals every year. I know what I'm leaving." Kyrie's not, when he says that I have a presence and aura about myself that is reality based, he's pretty much saying I'm not deluding myself into thinking I'm better than LeBron James. I'm not deluding myself into thinking that we probably wouldn't make it to another NBA Finals next year if I stayed. That's not what he's saying. Not at all. And he's saying it's not about him wanting to be the man on a team or making himself the primary object, even though I think some of this is him putting himself first, so that kind of was a contradictory statement. But I think that the latter part of the quote is what's really like him. He doesn't. A lot of people are saying that what do you think you're doing, leaving the best player in the world? And he replies to that kind of statement, and he says it had nothing to do with not wanting to play with the best player on the planet. It didn't have nothing to do with me not wanting to be the second fiddle, not wanting to be sunned, or as you would say, Max, being a second-class citizen or a second banana. I don't even know what that is. So, this wasn't about Kyrie wanting to. And if you listen to, he was on pretty much the whole time on First Take. He was on there for like at least an hour, I feel like. So, if you go back and listen to the whole podcast and you listen to everything on his face value, Kyrie essentially was saying, how I said earlier, he wants to play point guard. He wants to play his natural position. He doesn't play that in Cleveland. He's a scorer. That's what he is. He's a closer. He's a scorer. He's an off guard for the most part. And then when he gets the ball, he has to pound the ball. He's a scorer because LeBron is the point. So he's saying he wants to. I wish I had the full. I know he kept saying this repeat phrase, and it's pretty much saying he wants to maximize his talent. He wants to play for a coach and in a system that will maximize his talent. Some people take that as a dig at Tyronn Lue. I don't think it is a dig at Tyronn. It's just a fact. Playing with LeBron James, you're playing in a LeBron James system. You're not going to play in a normal system like other teams do. That's just a fact. There's nothing there to rip apart and say, oh, that's a slight towards LeBron. It's a fact of matter. A matter of fact. Brad Stevens has been acknowledged to be one of the most exceptional coaches in the league. And now you're going to go play for a guy like that who can possibly make you the best version of yourself that you want to be. That's what Kyrie's trying to do. He wants to become the best version of himself he's trying to be. And he felt like in Cleveland playing next to LeBron, he would have never reached that level. He would have never hit his ceiling because he would have always had the second role and just been stuck in that box as a closer, as a scorer. And had people like Max and others that say, oh, he's not good at making his teammates better, when he believes, I can make my teammates better. I just never have been put in a position to do so. And when he was in a position to do so, he played on a terrible team. Everybody always wants to bring up the first 3 years of Cleveland. Yeah, you talking about when he was the number one pick? Yeah, you're number one pick for a reason. Your roster is terrible. That's the reason why a guy goes as a number one pick. They completely revamped the team the minute LeBron James got there. Kyrie Irving was playing with relative scrubs. This was the Tristan Thompson he has on his roster now is not the Tristan Thompson that was playing with him before then. He was playing with literal scrubs. And it goes without saying that he was hurt a good part of the time back in those first 3 years when he was up. Well, he came in as 19 years old, and people try to hold those years against him. I mean, come on, we got to be realistic here. Okay, and then I think there's one more part of this where he says, where he alludes to a false world. Pretty much, he was saying that he didn't want to trap himself in a false world or make himself feel comfortable in a false world. Now, what a lot of people haven't touched on this, and what I feel as though what he's alluding to when he says this false world. Now, this isn't any preconceived notion or anything that I'm coming at this with, but a lot of people have said, "Oh, Kyrie, how are you going to say all those glowing things about LeBron?" For example, this is what he said about LeBron during the interview. Being with that guy was unbelievable. It was something I will relish in for the rest of my life. Now, after they lost in the NBA Finals, Kyrie was talking about how playing in this role has been an adjustment for him, but playing with LeBron James is something that he would never take for granted. It's something he would always reflect on as a key pivotal moment in his life. And Kyrie, even in the interview, he's the first one to tell you he's learned a lot from LeBron, specifically about how to be a pro athlete, about how to be a pro's pro. That's what he's learned first and foremost from LeBron James. But what I feel like he's talking about in this false world he's alluding to is this false narrative that once LeBron James, if LeBron would have stayed, that the team would have been catered to Kyrie Irving more than LeBron James. But I don't think that's I feel like LeBron would have always been the first on top of the pedestal, and Kyrie would have always been the second guy until LeBron obviously could not carry that team anymore. And Kyrie would have spent most of his prime playing under LeBron James, who knows when he would have exited his prime. A lot of guys have been well off players deep into their 30s. Kobe Bryant, were it not for his Achilles injury, who knows how good he would have been for the next few years of his career. His last season before his Achilles, he averaged 27 points on 45% shooting. So Michael Jordan deep into his 30s was averaging over plus 27 a game and was winning championships. So a lot of people make it seem as though once LeBron would have tailed off, the team would have become Kyrie Irving's. LeBron said he was preparing Kyrie Irving for that moment. But nobody knows if that moment would have essentially came. And that's, I think, the false world Kyrie Irving is alluding to. This false narrative that's what his role would have become after spending time, after essentially the fall off of LeBron James. And you, as a guy, you can't stay with those guarantees. You have to go somewhere where you believe you can be maximized as a player, as a talent, as everything. You feel like you're getting the most out of all your capabilities as a basketball player. So I don't have any issue with Kyrie, what he said, what he's done so far. I don't have an issue with anything how he's handled it. Now, he even went on to say about how he was hurt from how the news leaked about his trade and everything like that. And, honestly, I know nothing of, everybody, this is all, at that point, it all becomes hearsay because nobody knows specifically who leaked the news about his trade. And a lot of it gets insinuated that it was LeBron James' camp, but nobody knows for sure who it was. But I know one thing for sure, that Kyrie throughout this whole offseason hasn't said one bad thing about LeBron. And no matter how many people want to interpret it as a thing against LeBron, that's one thing the media knows how to do. They like to drive wedges in between teammates. And a lot of times people will say we were brothers, blah, blah, blah. But the media will say, oh, since you left that guy, was he really your brother? So people have never left a network or a station or a company where they felt like they had a really close friend or brother there, and they wanted to go for maybe even a competing network or television station because that was a better opportunity for them. It doesn't always have to be bad blood or something like that. Maybe sometimes you really just want to make a better move because you feel like you can maximize your career, get better earnings out of your career, and also because you can be happier. It doesn't always have to be a feud between two guys. It's not always that. It doesn't have to always be that. If it turns out to be that, then so what? So be it. But it doesn't always have to be that. Why is a negative preconceived notion always what people turn to first instead of just saying maybe the guy actually just did what he thought was best for his career? Maybe that actually happens for once in somebody's life. They actually do something that was just the best in their career. When Tracy McGrady left the Raptors and left Vince Carter, were people saying that, oh man, he couldn't get along with Vince? That's his cousin. That was his cousin. But nobody was saying that. So now all these different instances where we always want to say, oh, a guy had an issue with a guy this and that. It doesn't always have to be that. But all right, y'all, I'm going to transition to my next topic. When I come back from the break, I'm going to be talking about the Seattle Seahawks and if they can actually make it back to the Super Bowl and actually win the Super Bowl with their current roster. Stay tuned, y'all. It's KBR Sports, the best sports talk show 24 hour a day.